Hello guys. So in our last session, we have seen that uh, what is what exactly the API is, how the API works, and what are the different type of APIs available in the market. And also we saw that we discussed that how the API interact with the one system to another system. So coming to moving forward, now I'm going to discuss about some of the important thing about the uses of API. What is the use of API? So we are using the various payment gateway, right? We are making the payment through mobile app like UPI, the Google Pay, the Paytm, Phone Pay. There are multiple apps. So what they do, in fact, they are using the API. Also, we have seen that Make My Trip website, Trivago, the hotel comparison website. The Make My Trip website is for the flight uh, price. It tells the flight price. Make My Trip doesn't have any airlines, but you can book tickets through this website, and it gives all the price, all the airline prices for that particular route. This is also using the APIs. So mobile application, whatever any mobile application you are using, the Facebook, Instagram, and any application, every mobile application is using the API. One of the biggest example is also a Google Maps, the Facebook. You can uh, comment Facebook and also publish the same at the same time on the Twitter. So what you do, you just allow Twitter and Facebook that okay, you can sync with each other, and rest of the things is done by the API. You can post on the Facebook, and it also images and uh, videos, and it also goes to your Instagram account. This also happens due to the simple APIs. So now we have seen that what are the uses of API. So there are multiple things apart from these also that API is being used. So why API testing is required or necessary? One of the most important question, that why we need the API testing when we have a front end, when we have a database layer. So we can do it by front end. Why we need to test the APIs? So the answer is in today's era when the rapid application development is going on every day, even every day, multiple mobile apps are being launched on the App Store or the Play Store, Android platform, on the iOS platform. Various web application is being developed. So in earlier phases, earlier time, that developer writes each and every codes for the operation. But now these days, there are multiple companies are providing the APIs, and developer work on their business logic only. The rest of the thing is done by the APIs. So if the API is working perfectly, so at that time we can display all the things. Let me draw one thing. This is my client. This is my app server. This is my client, and this is my database. Fine. So what we do normally from the client side, we send a request to app server and where the business logic and the API is deployed, and then it sends to the database. Then database respond to this, and then it respond to this. Fine. So this way. So the main thing, if we see that the main business logic is performed in these two layer. So if the database is responding correctly to the application server, then the application server is only displaying the user friendly text or messages on the client side, right? So everything is happened at application server layer and the database layer. So if these two systems are working perfectly, so it is very easy to any company to make their application make their to change their application or dynamically change their application, rapidly change their application, and they can launch easily. They can get more and more business as per the market conditions. So organization wants that if my tester wants knows how to test this layer and this layer only. So this layer, that client side or the functional part of the application, that only display all the data which is coming at here, and that data need to be displayed at here as a user friendly manner. So if this layer and this layer is doing well, is working perfectly, so this layer we can on the client side layer we can easily display those data. So in most of the time what happen in the industry for the rapid development, the developer, the hardcore developer writes uh, this part, UI UX developer develop this part. So if this part is not being developed till now and this is developed, completed, so as a tester, if we test these things that okay, that proper communication is going on, the functionality, the correct data is displaying at here. So whenever this part is completed, no need to test all the things because the business logic is correctly working on this layer. So only the UI UX developer will display all the correct data, all the data which is coming to here at this level. So it reduces the time of the tester, it reduces the time of launch because on that client side, at that moment, we mainly focus on the UI part of the application because we know that business all the data is is coming correct or is displaying on client side is correct because the application server and database layer has been tested. So that's why the rapid application development, wherever it happens, they are using the API and they demand the API tester. Fine. So this is one of the most important reason why the every organization are demanding the API tester. Although the only API tester is not demanded, but this tester is also that is called GUI functional tester or the manual tester. This is also in demand, but yes, now today's era, in these times, most of the organization, as I told you earlier, that just browse any job sites and you will see out of 10 manual testing jobs, 8 jobs are asking the person is should be good in the API testing or web service testing and database testing. Also, the GUI functional testing, because this part is covering only GUI functional testing, right? So that's why any automation tool, if you see that Selenium or any automation tool, that is known as the GUI functional tool because that automates only this part. a major part. This we can also do it. We can also do it, but mainly industry as the GUI automation tool. Fine. So these are the uh, that's why the API tester is high in demand in the industry, and you see that benefits of API, that rapid application development is it is going to support. There are different new application launch. Trivago compares the hotel prices and display all the things. There are n number of things as well. Then the most important, mostly used APIs, that Google Maps APIs. So this way, and how the API changes the world. See, earlier we have only the bill desk or selected payment gateway. Now we have multiple payment gateway. We can pay our utility bill through Paytm, through Phone Pay, through Google Pay, mm, n number of free charge, n number of payment gateways available. We can collect the payment on various method, like mm, Instamojo, Razorpay, Paytm, right? So it changes the industry, it changes the business, and all because of API, extensively used of API. So if I say that, why the API? Because earlier, Make My Trip was, I think, operating since 2002 or 3. At that time, API was not developed. So at that moment, at that time, how the Make My Trip were comparing different airline prices, right? So at that time, there was another technology that is called SOAP. That was another technology that is called SOAP. And SOAP was using, as we see that it is sending request, and in database sends a response. Fine. App server sends a request to database, and database sends a response. Fine. So earlier it was used by the SOAP. Now it is from last 5 to 7 years. It is the API. So why the one technology was there, so another technology is required? Why not industry was using the, still they are not using the SOAP? The reason behind is there was some of the uh, demerit of the SOAP which was addressed while developing the API. And what was the demerit was, SOAP based request only sends a request, like in database sends, if you are sending me SOAP request, then I will only accept a predefined format, and that format is known as XML. And SOAP based request was developed by Microsoft. So they said that we will only accept the XML based request. And what XML based request is, just like let's say ID. So it's a opening tag and closing tag. ID, let's say 10 101, and closing tag, it is like this one. right? So this was in XML based request. It accepts only XML based request. So now a developer has they don't have any choice to send a request in some other format. So now they have after the once when the API is developed, so this incorporated that okay, you can send XML based request. Also, apart from this XML, you can send in API, you can send text based request apart from XML, CSV, comma separated file, HTML, and JSON as well. JSON as well. And the most important thing, see, all the uh, unstructured data, database system stores the data in JSON format. Unstructured database, what it means? That is which there is no relationship between two tables. You can refer in one sentence, in one line definition, that RDBMS, where MySQL, Oracle, these are called RDBMS, and MongoDB, these are, or Postgre, these are, Postgre is also the RDBMS, and also it is the unstructured database. So these database stores the data in JSON format. So the end user get a benefit that okay, if we send a request or if we receive the request in any format, then we can store that in JSON format, right? So most of the organizations, most of the companies, or most of the application use this format for the API request. So now the developer get a free hand to send a request in which format they would like text format or CSV format, HTML format, JSON format, as well as the XML format. So this helps the one, this gives the one quick help to the developer. The another thing, the API process faster than the SOAP. Fine, because this is in simple format, text, CSV, HTML, JSON. But in XML, server takes a time to read all the lines of code. So this gives the another free hand or another benefit to use the API. Now, these are the two benefits, but what are the demerit of API and what is the benefit of SOAP? The SOAP is highly secured, but yes, the API is a little bit less secure. Also, we say that API is a stateless, that for every for every activity you need a one method, as we saw in our previous session, that for creating a new record I send one request, for updating one record I send one request, to get a one to get a value from the database I send one request, to delete I send one request. So it is a stateless. So these are the APIs uses and all the stuffs. Now moving forward, as we discussed, this is the app server, this is database request, it sends a request, and request send in this method. This method is used by the APIs, and these method perform these activity on the database, and now database sends a request in this format, and that is called response code. So now this response code, once the app server gets this response code, so it sends some of the information to the client, and that information is the user friendly, user created, and this. So now how we send a request to this one, the first part, and how we get the response and this one. So most important thing is how we send a request to here. So or for if we are applying the method post, so what are the process to send a request at the database level? So as I told you in previous session that I said that okay, I'm sending this URL. In fact, that is also I told you in our later session we will discuss about, is that a really URL we say or we say something else. So now coming to that, that is called endpoint, or this is not URL, this is the URI, Unified Resource Identifier. See, this is the URI, endpoint or URI. So what is endpoint or URI? It is a similar kind of URL in which three things are combined based on which method I am going to apply. Like if I am going to apply post method, then as I told you, three things are combined. So in this, only two things are combined. If I am applying get, so of course, see what are the three things and what it contains the URI. So the first part is domain name, second part is path, and the third part is query string. As I told you, as this showed you in my previous session, that localhost colon 8089, that is called domain name, and the slash student is called the path, and we are sending 101, that is query string. So this way, the that URL which we are saying that now in our next session or other session we will say it endpoint or URI. We will not repeat URL, because URL is something else, and the endpoint and URI is the perfect word, or the perfect you can say the uh, perfect terminology to address. So see, these methods we apply post, get, put, delete, and domain name. This is the domain name, localhost, and this HTTP is the called protocol. This may be HTTPS, FTP. These are the protocol, and localhost colon 8089. This is my domain name. Just like gmail.com, that is a domain name. But Gmail is hosting some of the port in the application server. So that is a hidden. So we just simply write gmail.com. But yes, as I told you that our training is more focused on the practical. So I have run that API on my local host. That's why I wrote here localhost, and I'm using the 8089 port. So that's why I wrote here domain name as a localhost colon 8089. It may be if I'm running that some of the web server, so we can write here simply, let's say abc.com slash student, like a student is the path, right? To get, as I told you, that in post method we don't say any query string, because we are not fetching any value. We are going to create a value, we are going to record, adding a new record in our database. That's why there is no query string. For get, of course, we are fetching some of the values from the database, so that's why it contains a query string. For put, of course, we are saying database which record need to be updated. So we are sending the query string as well as we are also sending a body. We are also sending some of the data. For delete, no need to send any data. We are only send it to query string that which record need to be deleted. So these four methods we will work on that. So now if I send these things, so this URL URI or endpoint till here, a student will help me to send a request at here. Fine. So we are sending post, get, we saw that post, get, put, delete. For these four methods, we are sending request. Now it is giving me the response for all the received method, all the received methods. So what are the response it will give me? See, for post, it will give me response for 201, for get 200, for put 200, for delete 204, and get after delete 404. So let me explain you what exactly the post. Post is once we create a record in our database. So once the record is created in database, the database sends a response code 201 to the application server that okay, it means your record has been created. Now the application server sends a user-friendly message to the end user or to the client where we saw that the message comes user added successfully, user created successfully. So these messages are user friendly so that as an end user I can understand okay, my record has been created. So now if I log into the system, so the basically what the application server does, it sends a request to the database in the form of method get, like and the query is being executed on the database in let's say my record is saved in user table. So it sends a request that select a star from user where id equal to abc and password equal to xyz. So once my query is executed on database, so I my database sends a request to the application server. uh, s- Database sends a response to the application server, and it sends a response code 200, and immediately the application server displays sends a response and to the client side or the presentation layer and display me my inbox page. The same for put. If I want to update anything, I want to change my uh, mobile number or I want to change my username, so it sends a request to the database in the form of SQL update user set uh, last name sing where id equal to 101, and that query has been executed on the database, and after that database immediately sends a response to the application server, and that is 200. And at the same time application server sends a response to the client side or presentation layer, and it shows me user successfully updated. If we delete, we don't get any message. Do we get any message at the time of delete? Some of the application, yes. But see, this message gives this query has been executed, delete user, delete from user, and where user id equal to 101. So this message response code coming from the database 204, and we get a response on the presentation layer user deleted. Now get, we saw that first we create data, then we get the data. Now if I delete the data or to apply get again, So this message gives me 404. If I delete the data and now applying put update, so what message it will give? We will see it, and all the combinations we will apply during our next session. Because see, the learning is one, I teach you only the straight path, but that is not, I believe, is the right way. The more we will make mistake, the more we will generate invalid scenario, and then we will rectify what are the mistakes I have done. That is the correct way to get the knowledge, to show the experience, right? So our training will be based on that. The more we will do the mistakes, and then we will identify what are the mistakes I have done, why this message is coming, how to rectify this. Because there is only one path for the correct one. Like if I teach you, okay, if apply this URI and send a method post, we will get a message 201. Okay, this is finished. What if I did mistake while sending this request? If I send a invalid data, if I send a uh, missing data, what if my API is not running? What are the messages? What type of messages I will get when the API is not running? When the invalid data I am sending? When the data I miss to send? What are the mandatory data while creating a record? So these are the things we will cover up in our session. The more on mistakes, more focus on mistakes, and of course, the correct path is only one. So the first we will cover up the correct path. We will go by the correct path, and then we will make more and more mistakes, and then we will rectify. Okay, this I left. That's why this message, this error is coming. This I left. That's why this error is coming. So that at the time of interview, at the time of work, if I get those type of error, then easily we can rectify. Check it. E- Either I'm missing this one or missing that one. So this way we will learn. Fine. So as of now, I'm just wrapping up, and of course, today again we did not saw the Postman tool, but yes, in our next session we will work on the Postman tool, how to apply these methods, how to run the API, and how to check that record has been created and all the stuffs. So guys, thank you for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and all the best. Thank you.